Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first GlobalSign podcast. We are super excited to kick this off today with one of GlobalSign's very, it's an important partner of ours, and it's a company called GetAccept. I'm sure you know them if you're in the world of sales. They're a Bessemer Venture funded company, and they're a hot startup, and so we're super excited to work with them. So today joining us is Samir Smajic, and he is the co-founder, I believe, of GetAccept. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great. And also joining me is Andreas Sprix. He is GlobalSign's EMEA program manager. Thanks for being here, Andreas.
Thanks for inviting. Great to be the first one. Then we need to kick it off in a really good way.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, as I said, GetAccept is a startup, and you've had 2 rounds of funding, and you're really making a great name for yourself in the whole world of sales tools. But GetAccept is different, and I'd like to talk about that. You're sort of a blend, I guess, of a CRM tool, but also sales, and we'd like to talk about that. But first, for our listeners, can you tell them about the company, how it started, what was the notion, and I think it was a larger team also that founded the company as well.
Yeah. That's correct. No, so we started back in 2016 or late 15, I would say. 4 founders, all from Sweden, actually. But we thought that we had this amazing idea, so we couldn't really keep ourselves just in the Nordics or in Sweden. And we had this idea of enhancing and making it easier for the sales reps to do sales digitally. And now you have to remember, this is 2015 and not post-COVID, so that was even earlier than COVID happened to the world and everyone went digital. And what we wanted to do is more like, we saw that sales was moving online, but you were more or less handling your sales process in an inbox. And that to me was really hard to see that was the best way to bring engagement, communication to the table, and understand who the stakeholders are and actually get that contract over the finish line. And we know also that sales are sharing a lot of collateral. So we were thinking like, what if we can make a place where you can share collateral, being the first presentation or the last contract. So one tool to do that journey from opportunity created to close contract, and enhance that and make it possible for the sales rep to understand what is going on, track who is attending that digital sales room that we were creating, who's viewing the content, how are they engaging with them, can we communicate with them through video or through chat, and then in the end craft a contract that we then can get digitally signed. So that was how everything got started. And us 4 founders, we all come from being very commercial driven, but with different skill sets. So one, of course, on the developer side, me more on the product and UX side, and then more 2 persons on sales and marketing. And as I said, pitched this to some companies who thought it was interesting, but here in Sweden, we were not as far ahead as you were in US, for example. So we went over to sunny California and pitched it for Y Combinator, and they loved the idea. So we joined Y Combinator in 2016 winter, and from that we've had a wonderful story with a lot of growth, hiring. Today we are almost 200 people working at GetAccept.
That's fantastic.
And are just hammering it.
Wow, it's 200 employees in 7 years.
Yeah, I would say almost 6 years, give or take. So it's been a fun journey, and we continue to grow. So that is, of course, extremely fun to see.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, when I was doing, some of my background reading, it was interesting that, for a sales tool, or there's so many challenges that salespeople face no matter what industry they're in. Of course, there's unique challenges in different verticals, but oftentimes, they don't take all the necessary steps, or they face roadblocks along the way, and your tool is different, and it's really helping them make a difference and get to that final mile, if you will, where they're going to be able to close the deal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have all worked as sales reps, being the one starting it, and we all know the hurdles that can come along the road, and we all knew also that you need different tool sets to handle these different hurdles in different ways. And we wanted to create this one tool to help the sales rep to make this journey as nice as possible for both the seller, but especially maybe for the buyer. So a lot of the things that we talk about now is how do you create a best buyer experience? Because I think in the end, buying something should be fun. It should be something that you enjoy. It shouldn't be looking for emails in your inbox, but it should also be something that you as a sales rep can use as your advantage against others, and not maybe only be the one that lowers the price or has the pitch about being the best product due to that we have the best SLA or the best quality of a certain thing. I mean, the experience, you're often buying from a person, and that is what we want to help the reps do in a digital world. And yeah, there's a lot of things that can happen between like opportunity created to sales finish line reached, and that's the journey that we want to enhance.
So, and in the CRM tool or the CRM portion of it, do you think that's what makes your product unique from other tools out there in the world?
Yeah, and I don't want to correct you in any way. Like, we see ourselves as an add-on to the CRM.
Okay.
CRM for me is often, I actually been working at the CRM company delivering and deploying CRMs out there, and CRM is often used as a tool internally. Like, it's something where you have all your deals, where you report your numbers, where you tell what is going on, etc. But more of an internal tool for you and your sales manager to discuss around and bring out reports. What we see GetAccept is that digital sales room that connects the opportunity, for example, in Salesforce with the buyer buying. So it's actually more of a CRM, but outside of the internal, or it's an external CRM where you talk and invite your customers who's buying. And now we actually created the new category, being the digital sales room, which hasn't been a category before. We were like pushed into the category of sales enablement, and we thought that, like, it's too wide, it's too big. Like, what is even sales enablement? So many different things. And I felt a little bit like the bird, the peacock, that I couldn't really spread the wings of what we were.
Right.
And then we're talking about this deal room, digital sales room. We couldn't really name it. And then we saw a big report from Gartner saying, this is how buyers want to buy in the future. They want to have this engagement. They want to have this communication in this way. And this is actually called digital sales room, we think, or they phrased it as that. And I was like reading that report during a vacation. I was like, shit, this is exactly what we are like. And then we created this new category together with G2. Since summer last year, that is a category, and now we are the category leader. And hopefully that category will grow. If we trust Gartner, it will be in 50% of all the enterprises out there or B2B enterprises by 2025. So of course if that happens, it's a fantastic fun journey to go for.
That's fantastic. Wow. It's certainly, you're an innovator for sure. So that's great.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a little bit of our like thing. We have and where you help us a lot with the digital signature. We have always had that as a feature. For a while, it was even the feature that maybe was the reason why people were buying us. It was the wedge in where people found GetAccept, and then selling that, it was, oh yes, we have digital signatures, and yes, we do compete with the big brands being DocuSign and Adobe. But what you actually get on top of that is understanding who is viewing your contract, how long do they spend on a certain page. You can start discussing things, but you can also share things before the contract, being the presentation or the customer review that you want to share for them to get to that signed, to that contract phase. And that was where maybe sales team understood like, hey, this is actually what we need. We don't need the feature itself. It's super important to get the deal done, but how do we get there is more of the importance for us.
Interesting. So you've had digital signatures from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the early features that we brought in together with analytics, being analyzing the content that you're sharing. Early days, it was often usually the quote or the contract itself that you were sharing to get signed. Yes, we always had digital signature, but the world has also evolved and more demand on keeping it secure, of course. We've always seen it as secure. We always be legally binding, but you always need to look at what the world is demanding and follow with that. And that was also why GlobalSign came in as a partner for us to enhance our digital signature experience, not only from a secure way, but also speed and rapidness. Like, we want it to be good. It's super important that it always works, and yeah, that was why we went with a known and a known provider that we can trust going forward.
Well, I'm glad it's worked out very well. And in the beginning, in the first couple of years, I imagine you've ramped up the number of digital signatures or the number of people signing with it, and how much has that increased? And given your activity, how much do you expect to see the number of signatures increase over the years, over the next, let's say, 2 to 5 years?
Yeah. Good question. I mean, we're signing I don't know how many millions of documents a year, and one nice thing with Get Accept is that we can grow a little bit with our customer base. So the more people using it, sending out things, and people receiving documents for signature, they also see the new experience of how this could look like in comparison to others, and then they also sign up. So every time we sign, a customer uses us, we get like one new customer, it feels like. So this is really growing rapidly. And a little bit exponential as more and more customers join our journey. So it's really hard to say like, hey, how many will we do in 1 year or 2 years? But it's several millions of
That's
signatures
fantastic.
Yearly.
Also, if I can jump in here, there was some discussions between Anders, Jakob, and you using basically the digital signing service with its full potential in the future, basically adding customer identities in addition to the Get Accept identity which you are sealing the documents with. So basically the digital signing service is future-proofed as a signing platform, because you have the capability of then adding identities of customers, or even let the employee of the customer sign. So I think that's where we found each other, seeing that the partnership could grow in the right direction, and that we can cover all the future aspects of the digital signing demands of your customers.
Yeah. No, but I think that's important when you look for a partner. I mean, you can always buy a service or a tool, and you can always find a cheaper version. But what I also always ask my sales reps, or the one working for us, is to actually challenge the customer. Like, hey, I see you want to go here. Do you think you could go here if you have only this kind of service or only this help? And I think that's where we had a good discussion, Andreas. Like, okay, but if you want to be here in 1 year, do you think you could just do these things? Or I see this being developed in the future. And I mean, we don't want to be experts on digital signature and how that is developing and what legislation there are coming around the corner. That's where we want to have someone who says like, hey, this is coming, Samir. How do you think about this? I recommend you to do these things. You cannot work like this anymore. And then it's of course up to me to believe and join that, or just like neglect it and say, okay, but we will maybe bypass it in this way or do this way. So it's much also buying into a partnership where you get challenged. And I think that's a super important thing to think of being a service provider of any way.
Yeah, I think there was also a very good exchange in the beginning. So it took a while till we basically signed the contract, but there was a big evaluation phase where you basically exchanged feedback you got from your customers, what kind of requirements they have, what they're looking for if they're searching for a signing solution. And that's where we had then a very interactive discussion around how we can fulfill that and what the future outlook is with GlobalSign, what to work with and what features will be released even end of next year, just to give you a better outlook on what to expect from us.
Yeah, no, but of course, and that's an important part.
So, being, a company based in Europe and, you have a lot of European customers, I imagine, how does the EIDAS regulation play into all this? And Andreas, I don't know if you also can talk about, GlobalSign's role and, and being in compliance and helping companies like GetAccept be sure they're always compliant with this very critical regulation.
Yeah. But I think from our end, like, again, we are not the experts like on the technical detail level. We of course know what we need to do, etc. And to add that, I actually think it's different because we're also in the US and we have quite, a big US customer base that is using us. I think it was so much easier to sell in the US in the early days and even now because they were so used to do digital signatures. So no one was asking like, is this even legal binding? Like, how can this be legally binding? Like all those discussions were, you never came into those. While in Europe, it was totally different. Because that was often where they first bought the digital signature tools for the first time, meaning the questions they asked was like, oh, how is this legally binding? How does it play in this country? We were also selling to Germany. Is it legal in Germany? And that's also where I think very many of our buyers they're not knowledgeable about the area. So they can read maybe eIDAS, oh, that is something that I need, but actually maybe they don't need it for that kind of commercial contract, and maybe they're just selling for $1,000 per contract. So in a way, like the eIDAS doesn't it's legally binding without the eIDAS in Sweden, for example, or in the whole Nordic, but eIDAS is a way to give an extra trust of how the digital signature is then put onto that document. But it's still legally binding without that. But I think that's where Andreas came in and helped us to understand how to play with this and how to actually build trust in the customer base by actually complying with also the eIDAS framework.
Yeah, it was an interesting discussion. So in the end, if you take eIDAS, it's a super good baseline. It is a good framework to basically define a little bit better the level of identities and give the identity provider and the CAs a little bit of framework to work with. So it's very expansive, and there's a lot of building blocks under eIDAS which are super interesting around the invoicing part, the e-archiving aspects of it as well. But the interesting thing is that usually, and that was with you guys the same, that your customers are not saying, I want, or they're sometimes saying, if they are a little bit more educated in that area, that they want like a qualified or advanced signature. But most requirements, and that is with every customer project the same, is I want a green check mark.
Yeah.
That is basically showing in Adobe Reader that the identities are trustworthy. That there is an entire trust hierarchy built behind it with AATL from Adobe as a trust list, and then you have the EUTL trust list, which is super complex, and that there's 50 accreditations in the way of QTSP achieving these being on the trust list. They usually don't care, but they want to have like this nice green checkmark as a graphic on top in the signature panel. And then sometimes they come with more focused requirements saying they want to comply, for example, to the e-archiving standard or building block. And I think, all of it was either addressed by Anders from a sales perspective, because I guess he has the most customer contact, and gets the most question in that direction. So we had some good meetings where we prepared answers for customers to answer the requests and to give a little bit more trust. And then, there were some interesting pieces of the technical requirements, which we discussed with Jakob during the implementation phase, because we also have to give a little bit of responsibility to GetAccept, for example, that the entire workflow, not just the GlobalSign piece, but also GetAccept's implementation is fulfilling the standards of, for example, advanced electronic signature.
Yeah.
So there was some interesting aspects, some really good discussions. So I really liked how the project involved, and I'm curious how the market will thrive in the future, because as you mentioned, COVID was really pushing for it, so there's more and more adoption of digital signing, because we don't have the face-to-face interaction anymore that much. So I think in that space we will both have a little bit more business in the future, and looking forward to work with you on that.
Yeah.
I was just going to add that certainly COVID was, a horrible period of time.
Yeah, sure.
But clearly companies jumped in to provide new ways for their customers to continue operating and, to keep business moving. And GlobalSign, we certainly saw our digital signature business expand, significantly, and it just keeps growing thanks to terrific partners and companies such as GetAccept. But, just generally, we're just seeing that, it's certainly, as you say, it's modern, it's secure, it works. So it's something that we're going to continue. We expect to continue lots of demand for, but we're so glad that it works so well within your platform, and that you're finding success with it.
Oh, but of course, and as you said, of course, we also saw demand coming from how the world was developing. Even if we already in 2016 believed that this was where we were moving, so COVID maybe was a little bit of an accelerator, and it made the evolution into revolution. I often say, so now we're on a different stage, and everyone is looking for digitalizing their processes. I think, we made a good choice here and focusing on really, securing everything, and also, as you said, Andreas, doing a review of how we're actually providing our digital service and how the tech looks like behind, so that we can say, but it's not you don't have to only trust us. We also have a third party here that is GlobalSign, well known, who has reviewed everything. So you should feel secure about that also, and to get that green check mark that everyone is talking about.
Andreas, did you have any other, thoughts about this conversation, or, working with GetAccept, and or any other thoughts about regulations around the signatures?
Not really. I think all my questions from my side I actually covered. I can just shout out again to GetAccept for being a very open-minded partner, being very good at exchanging ideas, working together, taking the time to have maybe brainstorming sessions on how to implement the signing service just in a perfect fit for the platform you guys are providing. Maybe a little bit of feedback on the onboarding process, because it's always very important for us. I would be interested of how you experience working with GlobalSign, even that we are at the moment not using the GetAccept platform to go through the calls and go through the meetings. But was there anything you want to maybe give on constructive feedback, if there was any things we can improve on working with service providers? So any feedback welcome.
Yeah, no, but I think, from a sales perspective, I think we had always a good dialogue. Again, finding a partner in these days is not easy. And I'm saying partner because I think this is a long relationship. And we had a good dialogue there where we could try it out and test it out and really make sure that it worked. So that was super. We also had some challenges in the implementation phase where we met a couple of roadblocks or bumps at least, which we together then could fight and get over to comply, but also to be able to use it in the full extent on the levels that we needed when it comes to number of signatures per minute, etc. So I mean, I think we did like a partnership. It's giving and taking until we reach the goal that we've set up together. So I think so far so good. Look forward to continue the partnership, using you as a partner for also explaining to our customers why they should use us as a provider, why they should use this certain certificate or way of signing documents, and educate the market a little bit, because I think also the market needs that. Often you read something about AIDAS and then you're like, oh, we just need this. But you're not really into what this means, and that's hopefully where we can help each other to educate the market in the future.
Thank you for the feedback.
You're welcome.
Well, I think that covers the much of the questions we wanted to ask, and we've gotten some terrific feedback from you, and it's great to know that GetAccept is continues to grow and to blossom, and that we're in partnership with you. So we're excited to see your growth, and how your company expands over the years, and it's wonderful to know that you have a great partner with Andreas, working close with you and the rest of the team at GlobalSign. And with that said, Samir, we're really grateful for your time today, and thank you so much. And also, Andreas, thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll be talking again soon. Thank you so much.
Sounds amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.